Gonna win. Long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. Never gonna lose, never gonna win. Long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. We are live. Oh my goodness, this is going to be such a good show. I am joined today by Matt Young and James Marshall. And we're not talking about accountancy software. We're not talking about helping accountants with kit. We're talking about men's health. And I was talking to James Marshall. I maybe saw a post about how he was talking about men's health. And I've known Matt for a long time. And Matt gave up an amazing job to focus on what he's doing. So good afternoon, gents. Alphabetical order. James, you're first. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here today, please, sir.
Ashley, very good afternoon. Thanks for having me. Greatly appreciated. And looking at my post on LinkedIn, mate, greatly appreciated. So, a bit about me. My name is James Marshall. I am 6'6", northern, neurodivergent northerner to be direct on it. Heavily tattooed, the opposite of what society would deem as a man that is able to speak openly about issues, problems, or anything else about it. Outside of posting, talking about things, I am Chief Commercial Officer for Macalvins Group, so 2 accountancy practices and an outsourcing or offshoring business together as part of the group, and I look after the group commercially.
Wow, super duper. You don't look 6'6". I guess you're sat down. don't come. I guess you're going to Accountex North.
Yeah,
because that can't be too far from you. When you come and say hello, can you stand like 2 feet back so we look the same height? That would be helpful.
I usually carry a stool round with me just so.
Thank you.
People don't get small man syndrome, so we're all good.
And Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
Well, thanks again for the opportunity. Great to meet James, because I have seen James's posts online as well, so that's fantastic. I am the journaling guy. This is what I've been doing privately for 4 or 5 years, but as a business since January. Former broadcaster, used to be a radio presenter, basically. Background in sales before that, and discovered journaling. I've always been quite open and honest, like James, with my thoughts and my feelings, and feel that it's done me no harm whatsoever. But the journaling can help the guys who have the trouble talking about that kind of stuff to their mates, because you can write that down. So rolled it out as an organization, and I've been surprised at the commercial take up. So, large businesses going, can you come and teach our staff? So it's been phenomenal. Delighted I made the change, and happy to kind of support men and women in whatever way I possibly can.
Oh, that's brilliant. You've been so busy, we haven't had a catch up, and you've moved closer. Which is ridiculous, because you used to live at the back of Beyond, didn't you?
Well, I moved to North Devon for a while, but I'm now probably about half an hour away from you, I think.
Yeah, we need to fix that, buddy. We need to fix that.
What about James? He's miles away.
Yeah.
People forget about the North sometimes, Matt. It does exist. We do have the wheel, and we have fire now as well. So we're trying to make strides just to catch up with the South as much as possible.
Fantastic. Wait, we're southwest, James, so we're not far behind you with our tractors and our wheels.
So it's only down the road, actually. It's only down the road.
So, I want to know how you got into this area talking about men's health. Like you said, James, right at the top of the show, big northern tattooed guy. Don't talk openly, but I've seen some of your posts. Come on, how did you get into it? Why are you here?
Mental health is something we all experience, something I've experienced, huge polar opposites about in life. And there were certain things that you come across in life and certain experiences that you have. And don't get me wrong, men talking about things, being open with each other, their partners, whoever it might be, is getting better. But there were certain things that happened in relevance to posts, that I put out previously. In particular, it was titled "A Man's Perspective on Miscarriage." Right. This is something that I went through personally with my partner towards, the start of 2023, and actually, it's something that I've never heard a man speak about. I was wondering why. Why is there a taboo behind that? Why? What are the perceived slights as to why people do not educate themselves and potentially educate other people in view of it helping someone deal with that as and when they or a friend of theirs goes through that experience. And I'm on a journey actually, right? It's a pretty good one. I'm still there, still going through stuff. Another LinkedIn post a little bit earlier today about the next step in my journey, but I wanted to make a change. And I think if you want to make a change in something, you got to start with yourself, and you've got to put yourself open and out there.
Yeah. Powerful stuff. Matt, how did you get into all this? Because you say you've been doing it a long while.
Yeah, I kind of went through I was going through a divorce, looking to do some work on myself, self-improvement. Took several courses, and just one of them started suggesting about journaling. And I've never been much of a writer. Always been a talker, communicator, as anybody who knows me will contest to. And I started to write my thoughts and feelings down, and it was incredible. And there was this epiphany moment where I was writing down, because for sort of 10 years, well, from 2010 to 2020, basically, I was in digital marketing. And I wrote this paragraph down, and it was the most filtered paragraph that I could have put out on social media, but it was me trying to be honest with myself. And I called myself out on it. I said, that paragraph is bullshit. Excuse the language. And then I wrote exactly what I meant and what I felt. And it was that little moment where I go, this is what can help. This is being honest with this piece of paper. It's difficult to say some of these things to even our nearest and dearest, but being honest with that piece of paper, getting that stuff out, exercising certain demons, but also having, because everybody looks at journaling as being something that's quite negative that can help you deal with stress, anxiety, depression. Actually, it helps you set goals. It helps you feel better. There's so many more positive things about it. And it's just something I've practiced and carried on, and wanted to kind of share it with the world as something that felt quite purposeful, whereas previous careers have been great and I've loved them, but this really does feel like I'm now, well, it's really selfish because it makes me feel brilliant that I can help other people, and I've never experienced that before.
And it took you to your 50. It's annoying, isn't it?
Really frustrating.
Isn't it annoying? I've got a few more years on you, and I wish I'd have started my business millions of years ago, but I didn't know that back then. James, do you journal?
So I'm very, very new to journaling. I have been journaling for just shy of 19 days.
Oh, wow.
I made the decision. I talked a little bit earlier. I'm on a journey. We're all on a journey. Our journeys seem to be aligned right now, which is great. It's absolutely awesome. I made the decision to basically renounce any usage of alcohol moving forward. So the decision to become completely sober. Various different apps available for that, tracking, so on and so forth, communications, positive messages behind anyone that's doing it. But I decided to start to keep a journal at that point on my emotions, my thoughts, my feelings, kind of reflecting back on it as well, things or situations that I'd overcome. And it's been very productive. It's good to be able to track and progress how far you've come, what you've thought at the time, and actually sometimes give yourself a bit of a pat on the back, right? I don't need a medal of honor or a chuffy badge, as we call it up north, right? But actually, it's good to reflect on good and bad. So yeah, very, very new to it, but getting a very small essence of the power that journaling can bring, which is, if anything other than spending time with you, Ashley, something I was very keen to learn from Matt and his experience over the course of the session today. Yeah,
no, absolutely. So, well, look, we've brought John on. I'm probably 18 months of doing it. Matt, any tips for me who's been doing it 18 months, James who's been doing it 19 days, and people that are watching or listening don't even know what journaling is?
I love the fact that James has already had a chance to reflect back in 19 days. James,
yes,
I'm so excited for you, because I used to keep a journal and I never read it back. And someone asked me about it. Said, do you reflect back? And I went, no, not really. And I started to look back through it. And what that did for me was give me what were the triggers that caused that situation, and what were the coping mechanisms I then used to deal with that situation. That's been the profound thing about journaling for me. It's that honesty piece. I am brutally honest in my journals. There's nothing, because you write some stuff down and you might be quite disappointed in yourself for writing certain things down, but it's a momentary thought. That's not necessarily what you think 24/7 at that moment in time. That is that emotion that you're going through. Don't be afraid to write that down. A situation with a very good friend of mine whose sister passed away, similar age to me, so gone far too soon. And he said to me, Matt, I'm afraid of what I'm going to write down, which was holding him back from doing it. Now, how do you get over that? And just start gently, start to write about it. And he was so pleased that he overcame that hurdle, because he's been able to process those thoughts and think, here's how I feel today. Why am I feeling that way? The biggest tip I can give anybody with journaling is just simple 6 questions: who, what, where, why, how, when. You can write down how you're feeling, and then you can just dig a little bit deeper. So today I'm feeling a bit melancholy because of X, Y, Z. Why is that? Who's caused that? What can I do about that? You just throw those questions in. Not all 6 questions are going to be relevant to every single situation, but it just helps you dig a little bit deeper. And as you get that body of work built up, you can start to look back. Like I say, you can reflect, you can see what you were going through at that time, what might have caused those feelings the way you feel, and what you did at that time to overcome those. So who, what, where, why, how, when is the best tip I can give you.
Thanks, man.
That's really good. Is there a good or bad time to get your journal out? And do we do it on paper, or can we do it on an iPhone or an iPad or a laptop?
I mean, there is no definitive answer.
That's exactly what I was hoping you would say.
Yeah. I mean, I physically love writing stuff down. It's difficult to reference back because my memory's shocking. When was I going through that feeling where I was thinking about maybe my divorce or something like that? If you journal, and I did it in Word for probably a good 6 months to 9 months, and I was able to really do keyword searches and find when I was going through that, and again, be able to look back at it. I'm not against apps. I don't use apps personally, but James might be able to help us on this one, because, I think it's an age thing. Apps have come into use. Mobile phones have come into use since I've been alive. I didn't grow up with this stuff.
Computers and internet. Hey, Matt.
Absolutely, that too. So, I'm not a fan of sitting there doing that. It's much more therapeutic for me to actually physically write stuff down. On the timings, I would suggest generally last thing at night, because it helps you download that day. Now, that may not fit with your routine. If you've got kids running around the house, if you've got busy stuff, you work till late, you just want to hit the sack and go to sleep. I journal in the mornings, but that's because I'm a morning person. I get my best work done. But actually, if you've got a busy home life, morning and evenings, and you're able to be there at lunchtime, that's when the house is peaceful, because journaling generally is a solitary thing, then do it at lunchtime. Find the time that works for you. As I say, I recommend evenings. I journal in the morning, so I go against my own. But that's what works better for me.
If
I left it to the evening, it would probably get missed more times than if I do it in the morning.
No, I'm an evening guy just before I go to sleep. What about you, James?
Exactly the same. The evening for me, it reflects on the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Little bit to start off with. Oh, by the way, Matt, thank you inadvertently for the compliment there about the youth. Greatly appreciated. As a grumpy old man in training, thanks very much.
I can give you lessons on that too.
James, you run a group of businesses. You've got lots of. I'm guessing you've got lots of blokes working there as well. What's the common mental health challenges that men face, and what can we do to help address these issues?
Common challenges, fear of failure, the impact of that, and being the provider for the families. Predominantly, I would say, is the main point or main challenge. There is a shift happening within society. It has been happening for some time. It will continue on. Some are opposed against that, and actually, aren't actually in the viewpoint that men and women should be equal. I, as well as the companies that I work with, are absolutely of that impression, of that situation. I think long gone are the times where a female should stay at home and look after the children. Actually, there is a codependency change coming into play, or a joint equal investment from both sides and both parties. For me, I've had conversations with my my now fiance Ashley.
I was going to pick you up on that. you called her partner earlier.
Yeah, partner, fiance, better half, slave driver, whatever you want to refer to her as. She's downstairs, so I'll probably keep quiet. But yeah, following that, I've had the conversation. I'd love to be a stay-at-home dad. Absolutely, great, no problems. Go and do what I do. Go and develop your career. Go and leave us in a position where we can survive on your income, and then I can do that. That's not necessarily the case. It just so happens that we're on different journeys, different points in our careers, and we operate differently, public versus private sector. So there's always going to be a divide there, right? But I think that is the single biggest challenge that you need to overcome. Going back to it, men taking all of the pressure and stress being providers from their families from a financial standpoint, the impact that has on their lives, not seeing the kids grow up in some cases, actually. I've worked over my last decade with an accountancy. I've worked with some amazing sales leaders, and there's a comment one gave me. I said, looking forward to the future, what is the one thing that you could go back and change if you could? And it was, I've been a great husband. I've provided for my family. I've always been there, but I've never got to see my kids grow up, right? Mm-hmm. I think there needs to be, what can we do? Change that perception, make that understanding clear in there, and reinforce it's not just about the monetary gain. It's not about having the nicest house, the biggest car. It's about being happy and content on a daily basis. I think us as men, reflecting on that, need to be in a position where we are making it the norm, making it, not just acceptable and okay, but making it great to be present, to be happy with what we have now, as opposed to having to have a Bugatti and have a nice yacht and whatever else that comes with it, right? I think it's about changing that perception.
Yeah, absolutely. But how do we change that perception when society is forcing all this on us? And you look at Instagram, you look at the news, you look at TV programs, films, and what have you. All the successful, and you can't obviously see me doing my quotation marks on the podcast, but all the successful people have got flash cars, trophy partners, flash houses, go on posh holidays, and it's how do we make success just be something normal? So success to me is the number of days I get out on my paddleboard, but people will look at me and go, that's whimsical or whatever. Do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So how do we do that? Again, trying to be the change that you want to see. I always like to say, what is the candid, perfect image that we portray ourselves on social media? But then also, what's the flip side? What's the yin to the yang? What's the reverse side? What's gone wrong? What were the difficulties you faced, right? And it's really important to share that and broadcast that. It will take a massive amount more of people to be of the same mindset in order to achieve that. If you look at, LinkedIn, for example, right? One social media medium, people, reactions, all that good stuff. You get engaged, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people like that. Great, no problem. You have you go to your daughter's wedding, right? You have that dance, right? But you put up a post about equality between men, women. You take a stance on your position and your support for Black Lives Matter. There is much less of a reaction rate, because just purely looking at that positivity and the impact that social media has had is far more beneficial for people. People like that. People engage with that more. And actually, it takes a mindset switch. What is the world like? What is that realization? There is an emerging drive of so many great people that are actually being honest and open. What was my past? What was my history? What is the bad experience that I've gone through? But what most importantly am I doing to change that? And it's great to see from a social perspective, actually.
And I think that's the thing with social media. And talking of which, we've got a few people coming in and saying a few things. So, Pavel, good morning or afternoon. Equal opportunities for men and women should be in place. However, the employment of women was used as an economical crutch to pull the indebted society from the trouble. And Antoinetta has come up and said we should stop comparing ourselves to others. Sometimes that's easier to say than it is, isn't it? And society compares us back, doesn't it? Go on, Matt.
You need to define success, and that is my idea of success is very different to the guy that's got the Bugatti on his driveway.
Yeah,
I would question how happy that guy is. A lot of people will flippantly go, "Really happy? He's got a Bugatti,"
yeah,
which is fine, and that's us being flippant. But I got asked on a podcast about marketing about 4 or 5 years ago, define success, and without batting an eyelid, I just went, "Oh, it's happiness." And it's what is your definition? Yes, it's difficult when society, as you said, looks at us and says, "Here's what society says success is." But I am, as a 50-year-old man, I've got a lot less cares, a lot less of those to give to other people. My happiness is about those that are closest around me, what I get up and do every day, my journaling, my meditation, the stuff that makes me happy, my work. I'm just so lucky to be able to do these things. Don't get me wrong, I'm ambitious, and if I could have a nice car, I would. But if I don't get that nice car, it's not going to be the end of the world. It really isn't. I need a new battery for my car. That's a nightmare. But it's what is success? What I've got with age and what I've got through journaling is understanding that don't really care what other people think. As long as I'm happy and I'm doing good stuff, then that's success.
Yeah. James?
I couldn't agree more. This phrase that comes to mind is stay in your own lane. Different people are at different points. There was a video I saw the other day, and it was talking about certain celebrities, high profile people, the amount of times in business that they'd been bankrupt, before they were then successful, the age that household names of actors and actresses have got to before they've actually got their break and they've made it famous. Yeah, talking about the 21-year-old crypto millionaire that lives on a boat for the rest of his life and having a great time. We're all on our own journey. Don't be envious of what somebody else has got. Stay in your own lane and do what makes you happy.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys heard of Mo Gaudat?
Say that again.
Have you heard of a guy called Mo Gaudat?
Yes.
He's he is or was the chief of Google X, which is like a side hustle of Google. Very, very wealthy man. One evening he purchased 2 Rolls Royces. You know what it's like, when you got a bit of money. But Matt, he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy. So what he did, because he's an engineer, he engineered a solution for happiness, and he has actually got an equation. He's written a book called Solve for Happy, and that opens up all kinds of things and gets you thinking about what actually is success. And he was actually on, I can't think of the guys' names, but they do a podcast all based on success, and he came on and just blew them away. Absolutely blew them away. So yeah, well worth finding out a little bit more about this guy. James, you just got back from an epic trip. Can you share some examples or anecdotes of where you found yourself? Because there was a great post on LinkedIn about that.
Thanks. I actually had somebody come up to me at an event and say, "Oh, you're the guy off LinkedIn," and I was like, "Wow!" As if. So yeah, we're referring to LinkedIn so much. Just be really, really clear on a couple of points. I had a very nice holiday because I worked very hard, and it took me a lot of time to save up for that because I wanted to make sure when I got engaged, just dropping that in there again, when I got engaged to my now fiance, it was in a place that none of us ever thought we'd be able to get to, considering our backgrounds, where we grew up, and the kind of economic, climate we were brought into in life. So for us, it was absolutely amazing. Actually, the trip away, Bali, Romania, 2 weeks in Bali, and then a festival in Romania. Some experiences, being born into being a common council estate kid from the north. The moment where you get to ride on the back of an elephant was like absolutely unreal, out of this world, mind-blowing experience. Obviously, just for the full disclaimer, It was a protected sanctuary where elephants had been, taken to stop them being poached. So it wasn't everything above board. Everyone was looked after. Really great position to be in. I think the most enlightening experience for me, actually, and I still can't get my head around it. There was a temple in a place called Abud in Bali, and a spiritual cleansing session. I am not a spiritual person. I am not a religious person. Never really have been. It's not something that's not necessarily sat with me, right? I had a spiritual experience, and I still can't explain it in any way, shape, or form. And everything that's happened subsequently since, I'm feeling is a direct output of that. It wasn't like a weight lifted. There wasn't something, necessarily getting me down, but it's completely changed my life. And I wasn't expecting it and can't properly explain it because I don't understand it. Who'd have thought a bit of freezing cold water for about a 20-minute period would completely change your outlook, right? But very, very bizarre, but incredible life-changing experience.
And this is why I wanted to do this show, because you would never have talked about that even 5 years ago, would we?
No.
Incredible.
Who are those guys talking nonsense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people still feel the same now, right? But definitely not 5 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Journaling can be quite personal and private. How do you encourage individuals to stick with it and keep going? So I've been doing it 18 months. James has only been doing it 19 days. But, are we going to fall off the wagon? What sort of tips can you give us?
It's all about forming habits. Crikey, what's the name of that book? It's all about habit stacking.
It's Atomic Habits, James.
Thank you very much. Brilliant book. So for me, my morning routine is what helps me to journal. So I get up. One of the first things I do is make a coffee. I meditate, then I journal. And I've got that in a routine where I love it. I really enjoy it. So all those little things form the great start to my day.
Yeah.
I know by doing that meditation and doing that journaling. Now, I don't do this religiously every single day, okay? Because I don't want to set someone up to go, well, I failed today because I didn't journal or I didn't meditate. Let's try and do it as often as we can. Some people just take to journaling when they need that kind of level of support. So I don't want to set people up for failure, but there is a recommendation. If you want a scientific, I think I might have said this on one of your things before, because we're talking to accountants generally. I did a training session with a bunch of accountants. There's about 15 in the room. They said, look, how often should we journal? The mathematics says 4 times a week, 15 minutes a time. Okay, that's for the facts and figures scientific people out there. I love all that sort of stuff. But it's about creating that routine where you will look forward to doing that. Now, journaling, you can write about some really, really difficult stuff. And that's what can put you off, because that was tough dealing with that, going over that again. Today was a hard day, and now I've got to write about it as well. So that can be really tough. What you need to do towards the end of every journal entry is to wrap it up with some happy stuff. So you've got your affirmations, you've got, gratitude. It's key point for me and for everybody. But I always do a couple of things. And this is, again, I'm not telling you this is how you have to do it. It's what works for me. So I always write down something I'm looking forward to. Okay. So that could just be a beer out with the boys this weekend, a game of golf, time with my other half, that sort of stuff. And I always do a little, what do I want to bring into my life? So a kind of, I'm looking to kind of just talk about those things so they're much more likely to happen. I'm using my language really carefully here, but I write down, I want to bring into my life ... and I complete that sentence. That can be people, that can be situations. Sometimes it's been financial figures, so it's just, but you wrap up that sometimes difficult entry with a positive tilt, and it makes it easier to come back to it next time.
Amazing. Guys, that's more than the 15 minutes we allotted.
I know.
we all know that we go for half an hour. I should change my branding. That has been, we could sit here all day and chat, couldn't we? It's a shame you don't live a bit nearer, James. We could go and have a beer together.
Well,
before we disappear,
I'll have the coffee.
He's not drinking.
I'll have the
you
coffee.
can have alcohol-free beer. I'm going to a party later, and I'm going to be taking alcohol-free.
Sounds great. You're only down the road, mate. Anytime.
So before we disappear, final word, alphabetical order. James.
One word.
Well, you can have a sentence or a paragraph if you like.
I'll take a couple of sentences. You're not alone. Talk about your issues. It helps. You are open. You're honest. You're integral to who you are. People like you or they don't. And the reason why I'm on this session is because of a post where I decided to speak my mind. So again, Ashley, thank you for having me. And Matt, lovely to meet you, albeit virtually.
Thank you, James. Matt.
Absolutely key in saying lovely to meet James. I say I've seen his posts on LinkedIn, so really happy about that. Ash, thanks for the opportunity, buddy. It's good to see you. I will need to do it physically. I'm going to say there's nothing more to add, but it is about, I am a person that has his heart on his sleeve, and I don't think it's done me any disservice. So if you can be a little bit more open and honest with yourself. James actually reminds me of a guy down here that we know called Chris Bentley, who's actually 6'7" and an ex-professional rugby player.
You can never meet him.
I tell you what, he's philosophical, he's open, he's vulnerable, and he's an absolute beast of a human being, and everybody loves him. And I love that, because that is a figurehead. This guy used to play professional rugby, yet he sits there and puts himself out there for the world to see. So people like you, James, are examples of why this is a good thing to do. So thanks for being you, James.
Yeah, I think we should do this again, guys. Before we go, I just want to give a shout out to Peter Watson. He's going to be my guest next week. We're talking about getting more out of your practice. And if you're in Exeter in September, I am doing a live training with the lovely Becky Craven. So thanks, gents, very much for coming on today. I know I can't get you back. There we go. You're back. You're back. Cheerio, and thank you very much for the lovely comments. Alison's just turned around and said that was very interesting. She enjoyed that. And Pavel saying he's going to get into journaling as well. So we've done some good today, guys. Thanks ever so much indeed. Cheerio. See you all again soon.
Cheers, guys.
You get out what you put in.